Good morning, Saints. I'm Jack Henderson.
And I'm Parker Peterson.
And this is SFHS Today. In international news, on January 12th, the island Taal in the Philippines started erupting. Lava spewed from the volcano, leaving a 15-kilometer high cloud of ash and rock fragments. About 10,000 citizens were forced to evacuate the island.
In national news, the impeachment trial is now underway. Political commentators keep talking about the partisan process which continues to pit the two parties against one another.
And in local news, Minnesota House of Representatives Minority Leader Kurt Doudt spoke to Mr. Swaggart's fifth-hour civics class on Thursday, January 16th. Students learned about state-level politics and what they can do to be part of the political process.
Well, with the ACT test approaching, reporters Zach Graff and Brett Overvold have a package for us on the test season. We'll go to them now as they have some advice for us on test preparation.
MCAs are the Minnesota Comprehensive Assessments. They started back in 2004 with just 10th and 11th graders, and they're made to meet the No Child Left Behind legislation that was passed back in the early 2000s. So here at the high school, it's the sophomores and juniors primarily that take them. The sophomores will take a reading test, and the juniors take a math test. So they matter for a couple different reasons. On a school and district level, these tests help organize kind of how they move forward with curriculum and what they do to change curriculum moving forward for the next upcoming years in the high school. Also, they matter kind of in a community level. One thing on a personal note that I've always looked into when thinking about where we're gonna live or that kind of thing is looking into the schools. So when we do state testing, they actually get put on a report card that's public information. So that kind of shows what our school is, how we test, how good our students are.
When is the ACT test?
The ACT test will be on April 7th. However, you need to register for it by February 7th. There was an email that was sent to all junior students and their parents with a link to sign up for the test. The importance of the test is most four-year colleges require a standardized test, and ACT is accepted at all universities and colleges in the United States. The importance of the test is that a lot of colleges look at scores to see if a student is eligible for a scholarship at their institution.
For juniors.
When I took the ACT last year, the most important things to me were just being rested and being mentally prepared for it, knowing it's coming. The other really important thing is kind of knowing yourself. If you know that you are not a great test taker, if you stress about tests and it kind of shuts you down, just be prepared for that.
Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. played a very important part in our country's history. January 20th was MLK Day, a holiday dedicated to the man himself. We will now go to reporters Alex Vandekar and Mike Washi, who have a package for us on the day to celebrate this American hero.
I'm Jacob Levins.
Do you know why we have Monday off?
For President's Day, I think, right? Or is it Martin Luther King Day?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why did we have Monday the 20th off?
The reason is it's Martin Luther King Day.
So who was Martin Luther King?
Martin Luther King was probably the most premier civil rights leader of the last century.
You guys know that. And it's traditional. A lot of schools, I'd say the vast majority of schools have those days off, depending. It's a school board decision which days we get off, just like we get President's Day off. Within this district, I think the last 3-4 years we've always had these days off.
And then what did you do?
I hung out with some friends. And it's in honor of Martin Luther King and the Civil Rights Movement.
And he's probably most well known for his idea of nonviolence. That when you confront a problem, you're going to use nonviolence to do that. And actually took that idea from Gandhi, who used it in India. And so we remember him as this significant leader that was so peaceful in what he did. He won the Nobel Peace Prize in trying to, of course, make changes for African Americans, starting with Rosa Parks, and then, of course, moving on until, unfortunately, the time of his death in 1968.
Earlier this month, Superintendent Beth Geese offered to have coffee with members of the community. Now we'll go to reporters Sophie DeRoy and Caitlin Riley, who sat down and asked their own questions in an interview that covers their first year on the job.
Well, hi, I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Sophie.
And we're here with Superintendent Beth Gies with some of the student concerns. Talking about strong voices, we've had some students going around the school getting petitions signed for hats.
Okay.
What is your opinions on students wearing hats in school?
Well, I always think that should be local principals' decisions at the end of the day. I don't make those back-to-back choices, but personally, I like hats. If I'm at home and I'm laying around on the couch, I tend to have kind of a cap on. You know, in the summer, I love wearing a baseball cap and things like that. I really don't, if they don't disrupt learning, I don't know if I understand how they'd be any different than a hoodie or, you know, an extra sweatshirt on or anything like that. I feel like they're kind of part of who you are sometimes. There is some research out there that it comforts kids with any anxiety or things like that, that it actually can bring down the weight of a hat, or the comfort of a hat can actually do that for some kids. So
Our last question is about school cancellations. How do you decide that?
oh my. Yeah, this district, you guys feel pretty strongly about your snow days. I got a lot of calls and a lot of emails, a lot of texts on the most recent snow thing we had. I do take it very, very seriously. I've let staff and the community know via emails and social media and things like that, but I do go out and drive roads by 3:30 in my own personal truck. I go check roads. It's really important that we know what we're going to do by 4:30 or 5, because we've got bus drivers already coming to do their pre-checks on their buses. So I take it very seriously that way. This last episode of weather, I watched webinars at 4 a.m., 11 a.m., 1 p.m., 4 p.m. You know, they kept moving the amounts of snow back, and they kept moving the timing back. So I think we made a really good call not releasing early. At the end of the day, parents make the decision for what they want to do with their children. And if they want to excuse their kids from school, they have every right to do that. And I will never question that. But I would caution people doing it too soon.
And what are other ways you think students can have their voices heard?
I think if people have a way, and I was just talking to one of the classes about this, and I really think it's good in a community where kids just start having a voice, whether it's social media or something like that, where sometimes I think students feel like, well, I'm just a kid, no one's going to want to hear my response. And I've noticed when kids step up and do say things on social media, or maybe write a letter to the editor, or, you know, kind of come out in an appropriate way. And I think you guys both know what I mean by that. If you're not blazing and talking about a really controversial issue and demanding things or things like that, I really think you have probably a stronger voice than someone like me.
Transitioning from the middle school to the high school can be a big deal for the freshman class. Parker and I went out to interview a few of these 9th graders to get their perspective on what it's like coming from junior high to the high school. All right, we're here with Carson Klaus today. And how does the high school compare to the middle school?
It's way better, more freedom, more opportunities, and you meet a lot more people.
And how does it feel going from being the oldest in the school to the youngest?
I mean, you have to adjust quick, because you kind of like, let's say like last year, we just mess around the whole time, but now if you mess around, you kind of like get in trouble with like the upperclassmen and stuff.
And can you share one story from the middle school?
So I remember last year, these 2 kids were in the bathroom vaping, and I went in there, I screamed, "Drop your vapes!" And they all just bolted out, and like, it was just funny.
And how does it feel going from being the youngest to the oldest?
Man, it's
From 8th grade to freshman.
Yeah. There's a lot of older classmen that are like, you know, they're meaner, and they don't like freshmen because we're younger.
That's a shame, man. That's a shame.
Yeah.
All right, last question. Why don't you share a story from the middle school?
First thing that popped in my head was Poop Gang. It's this thing that some kids started, I don't know how, but it was chaotic. Basically, like, there's a whole group, we all like compacted into the bathroom during passing time, and we all just screamed as loud as we can. It was insane.
All right, Jonah Stoffel, how does the high school compare to the middle school?
Well, for one, it's a lot bigger. 2, people are way like chiller here, I guess, if that makes any sense.
Okay, and how does it feel going from being the oldest in the school as an 8th grader to the youngest as a freshman?
Well, it gives me kind of it makes you really realize how much power you do not have in the world at all, I guess. If that makes any sense either.
And lastly, can you share one story from the middle school?
Well, like, I don't know, like 50 times or something, our principal would stand on the desk, or not the desk, the tables in the lunchroom and yell at us for the most random stuff. It was so annoying.
Local homeboy Mason Shields is back at it again with another music review. This week he'll share his thoughts on the classic hip-hop album Illmatic by Nas. I have nothing bad to say about this album, and I doubt Mason will either. We'll go to his review package now.
Hi, this is Mason's Music Mayhem, and today we're going to be reviewing Nas's album Illmatic. So I'm going to be doing like an old school review today. And his full name, excuse me if I butcher it, Nasir bin Alu Dara Jones. He was born September 14th, 1973, known professionally as Nas, that's his name, an American rapper, songwriter, entrepreneur, and investor. The son of a jazz musician. His dad's name was Alu Dara. Nas has released 8 consecutive platinum and multi-platinum albums and has sold over 30 million records worldwide. So this album, Illmatic, is an amazing album. His lyrics are more explicit, but it portrays what it's like in the streets of Brooklyn and New York. And his album just portrays all the violence and gang violence, and it's more deep than just him talking about violence. It's what you'd see on the streets every day. And it's just, I love the beats. So it's not like I'm just listening to really hardcore lyrics all the time, but his music really gives a message, and
Now we'll go to Jordan Haller with sports.
Hey, Saints. I'm Jordan Haller, and this is sports. The boys basketball team took a loss last week against Big Lake 99-93. Sophomore Cody Pennebaker made a lot of plays in the game and has a lot of talent. We had 2 blocks in the game, both made by Jacob Schultz. Their games this week are against Princeton at home on Tuesday at 7:15. Then on Friday, they are at Chisago Lakes for a 7:15 tip-off. The girls basketball team took a loss against Big Lake on Tuesday. This week, they go to Princeton for a game at 7:15. Then they go to Chisago Lakes on Friday, and it starts at 7:15. Boys hockey won their game against Duluth Marshall last week in overtime 4-3. Dylan Strait had all 4 goals, scoring the game winner with 12 seconds left in overtime. This week, they go to St. Paul Highland Park at 7:30 on Friday. Then they have a home game at 8 on Saturday against Cambridge Isani. Reporters Olivia Olson and Bree Boley found out how hockey has changed as the years go by.
Boys hockey changed over the past few years?
I think the biggest difference has been our number of players that we have in our program. So when we first started, we had, around 22, 23 skaters, and we're up to about 40 this year. So numbers have helped a lot.
What is it like being some of the youngest players on varsity?
I feel like the pressure's on us younger kids, and we have high expectations. The coaches have high expectations for us.
Yeah, the first year I played, I felt like I had to do way better than I was at playing hockey. So it does kind of make you nervous to go out there for the first time on varsity, but otherwise once you get through it, it's fun.
What's the outlook for the end of the season?
We got our final push towards playoffs and making a trip to the state tournament.
The girls hockey team had themselves a hard loss against Peaked Lakes last week on Tuesday during their senior night. This week, they are at Princeton for a 7 o'clock puck drop on Tuesday. On Thursday, they go to Osseo for another 7 o'clock game. They also go to Montemita on Saturday for a 3 o'clock game. Last week, the wrestling team had their last home meet. It was senior and parent night, and they beat Cambridge in overtime. Almost every senior on varsity won their match. This week, they have a meet in Chisago Lakes, and a meet on Friday at Anoka at 7:30. Then they go to Cretin-Dermot Hall High School at 9 a.m. The gymnastics team won their meet last Thursday against Princeton with a solid score of 134.7. This week, they have a Thursday away meet in Monticello. One of our reporters went out and found where to get the best snowboarding gear.
I got my gear at Another Man's Treasure down by East Bethel Theater. We're $25 around that area. Wild Mountain or Trollhagen.
I got my skis from a place called Joe's down in the Twin Cities.
I still rent my stuff, but I'm gonna play the sports soon and I'm gonna get some gear.
I go up to my cabin in the UP, called a place called Big Powderhorn Mountain.
I just go to Wild Mountain with the snowboard ski club.
We'll go my skis, they probably cost about 500 plus bindings.
I rent for $20 each time I go.
Well, that's all we got this week, folks. Tune in next week for more of our winter sports.
To conclude this week's broadcast, we'll head on over to reporters Allie Frank and her crew with an RQT. This week's question has a twist on the segment where they will be asking for wrong answers only.
It's the random question thing. Ding.
Wrong answers only. What's in your fridge?
Nicki Minaj.
What's in your fridge right now?
Route 21.
Who's the 33rd president?
iCarly.
What'd you eat for breakfast?
Vans.
How many hours are in a day?
$1.25.
Who's the 33rd president?
SpongeBob.
What did you eat for breakfast?
A sock.
How many hours are in a day?
Godzilla.
What's your favorite sport?
Probably blow drying my hair.
Wrong answers only. What's in your fridge?
My cat.
What's in your fridge right now?
Cats.
What'd you eat for breakfast?
Toyotas.
Who are the faces on Mount Rushmore?
Harry Potter, Ron and Hermione.
What's the perfect date?
April 26th, because it's not too hot and not too cold. All you need is a light jacket.
Who are the faces on Mount Rushmore?
Rush. Mount.
What's the perfect date?
With this sweet pea over here.
Making me blush.
Other than that, that's all for this week, Saints. Stay safe and have a great week.